Well, next tonight, environmental campaigners are calling on politicians to make tackling river pollution a top priority ahead of the general election. On Saturday, thousands of people from across the country will join the Restore Nature Now march in London, including a number from the East Midlands who say urgent action is needed to stop all forms of water pollution. Out on the waterways of Nottingham, paddleboarders are tackling one of the most visible kinds of pollution: litter.
There's some very odd things out there. So one of the other volunteers has found a building helmet, I found an inhaler.
And lots of single-use plastic bottles and food packaging. It's quite upsetting to actually see the amount of junk and plastic pollution that's accumulating and the damage that it can do to nature.
But beneath the surface, toxic chemicals are being washed in from towns and cities, farmland and sewage. And with a general election around the corner, that's what people here say politicians should be putting at the top of their to-do list.
Whoever comes into power needs to protect our waterways much better than and improve the conditions for nature, which will have that positive effect on paddlers, any water users. We need them teeming with life, we need them teeming with nature, we need them clear of junk, and we need them clear of sewage.
In recent years, public outrage over the issue of water pollution has gathered momentum. Tony Locker is one of hundreds of members of the Angling Trust who have signed up to a national testing programme, helping monitor the quality of the water along several rivers across Staffordshire and Derbyshire, including here on the River Dove.
There is direct impact from the sewage plants, and we know that it's happening. The details that we pick up sometimes are that bad. I have to phone the Environment Agency with the result.
And how do you feel when you're getting those high results?
Very angry. It's wrong. It's wrong. This is a beautiful resource. It is a special resource because without water we die. So it deserves some respect.
He says he wants to see the next government focus on enforcing existing laws and punishing those who break them.
Regulation, I would like to see, whichever party or parties is running this country after Independence Day, July the 4th, I would like to see it enforceable because the laws are there.
There's a knock-on effect too. The Attenborough Nature Reserve in Nottingham sits next door to the River Erewash, meaning any pollution in the river puts those species in the reserve at risk.
Just upstream from the nature reserve are 5 sewage treatment plants, as well as urban areas, as well as agricultural areas. So there's quite a lot of pollution coming down the Erewash and straight into Attenborough Nature Reserve at the moment, which is a real concern to us and something we're working to try and resolve.
For him too, enforcing existing laws on supporting and protecting nature is paramount.
We've got existing laws that need to be upheld and people need to be held to account, and we need to really stop the sewage discharges getting into our rivers. We've got opportunities, we've got regulators, we've got laws, we just need to enforce them, and we need to get on with it really rapidly because the nature and climate crisis isn't going to wait for us to get our act into gear. We've got to act immediately, and whichever party comes into power has really got to have this at the top of their in tray.
For whomever finds themselves in charge of the country next, the challenge of cleaning up our rivers begins on July the 5th. Well, our political correspondent Alison Mackenzie joins us in the studio. Alison, we've heard the concerns and the hopes of campaigners there. What have the political parties had to suggest as possible solutions?
Well, let's start, Charlotte, with the Conservative Party. They've been in government for the past 14 years. Well, their manifesto bigs up what they describe as their ambitious plan for water. They want to work with the regulator to further hold companies to account. Well, I'm sure the campaigners you saw in your report there would argue that it hasn't been happening anywhere near enough. The Conservatives say the money raised in fines imposed would be spent on river restoration projects. The Labour Party say they would put the failing water companies into special measures, a bit like schools. They would give the regulators new powers to block the payment of bonuses to executives whose companies pollute. They would bring in independent monitoring of water and introduce immediate and severe fines for wrongdoing. The Liberal Democrats, well, they would introduce a new sewage tax on water company profits. They would set legally binding targets to prevent sewage dumping into bathing waters and mandate that all companies publish accessible data on the sewage dumping. The Green Party, as you might expect, is the most radical. They would take the water companies into public ownership and they'd give an extra 1.5 billion to DEFRA. And they say there should be a switch to chemical-free organic farming methods. Finally, Reform UK has the least to say on water pollution, other than to announce that sewage dumping should be stopped. They say water companies should go into 50% public ownership and 50% owned by pension funds. All the parties agree it needs to stop, but slightly varied ways of doing it.
For now, Alison, thank you.